Welcome back. You're watching KTN News Desk. Today is the International Day for the Right to the Truth concerning gross human rights violations and for the dignity of victims. The purpose of the day is to honor the memory of victims of gross and systematic human rights violation and promote the importance of the right to truth and justice. The day is also set aside to pay tribute to those who have devoted their lives to and lost their lives in the struggle to promote and protect human rights for all. Farmer Muhammad is on that story and now joins us from KICC. Farmer, good afternoon. Kenya is joining the world in paying a tribute to human rights violations victims. What more can you tell us?
Good afternoon. So obviously we're here at the KICC for the International Day of Truth, commemorating the survivors and victims of human rights violations. We have heard stories, gruesome stories, of survivors of sexual-based violence as well as ethnic-based violence and other human rights violators here in Kenya. This is providing them a platform to gather and speak with one another and have a bit of a commemoration for not only the victims but for the families. They're trying to remember those experiences that they've had, but also trying to overcome them. And this platform is essentially trying to urge justice for these victims and their families. I'm actually here with one of the organizers that can speak to us more about what today is all about. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can I get your name and your position here?
My name is Lydia Muthiani. I'm a human rights lawyer. Currently work with the Women's Link Worldwide, an international NGO, which works on women's rights and seeking justice and accountability for violations meted on women and girls. My role specifically here is to join as a member of the Kenya Transitional Justice Network, who are the ones who coordinated this commemoration event today on the International Day on the Right to Truth concerning gross human rights violations and of dignity of victims, because victims are the ones who are normally the most relegated persons when it comes to certain processes, especially those ones concerning the provision of comprehensive reparations for violations which have occurred historically.
And what do you see happening at this event today?
So they have put up a very beautiful photo exhibition. So there was a walkthrough of that. So when you have the photos depicting the different big events which were specifically actually captured in the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission reports on gross human rights violations over the time since 1963. So you will have, for instance, the Wagala massacre and the Kisumu massacre, but then also speaking about victims of police brutality, but then thinking also of victims of sexual violence during the different times when there's been conflict periods or there have been big events of mass violence where there have been gross human rights violations. So in that pictorial depiction, it was very powerful. Before now, there began the speeches where we have the representative from the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights giving a speech, and you have the head of office of the International Center for Transitional Justice, Chris Gitari, who has been a leader in this process, talking about the journey towards setting or developing a reparations framework for Kenya so that you can actually operationalize whatever funds have been there and whatever framework which is needed to provide comprehensive reparations for victims. We've also had a representative of the Attorney General's office, which is actually housing and is in charge of overlooking and overlooking what exactly is going on with regards to operationalization of the Restorative Justice Fund. And then we have Christina Lai, who's the head of office for the Physicians for Human Rights, speaking about reparations specific for sexual violence in conflict.
Well, thank you so much. We're actually here with a survivor of the post-election violence. She personally doesn't want to speak about her experiences, so she'll be a voice for the survivors and victims here, speaking to us about what this event means to her. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, too.
Can I get your name, please?
My name is Susan Wamboi.
And what does this event mean for yourself and other survivors?
The event is for the truth, justice. Tunataka watu wapate justice zao ambao walipata kudhulumiwa 2007 and 2008 and kwa kijiji kule Kibra. I'm talking on behalf of kijiji ya Kibira. Bado violence zinaendelea, the gender based violence zinaendelea. Wamama wanabako, watoto wanaendelea kubako, hata vijana wanabako na tunauliza itaendelea mpaka lini this violence about the gender based violence. And na tumesikia kwamba President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta aliweza kutoa 10 billion and the victims hawajapata ile the 10 billion fund. How watagoja mpaka siku gani? And itaisha siku gani the gender based violence katika vijiji, kudhulumiwa kwa wazazi wetu, kwa watoto wetu, kwa vijana wetu, watoto wengine walizaliwa bila wazazi. So we are asking government, itaendelea mpaka siku gani? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We're also here with a representative from the Legal Justice Department that provides these survivors legal advice. We'll speak to her more so. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Can I get your name and your position?
My name is Gatu Dangote. I work at Kituo cha Sheria, and everybody you see behind me is the family of Kituo cha Sheria. We are a legal advice center. Our work is to provide legal aid and advice to victims such as this, as well as all other people who cannot afford a lawyer or who cannot afford to pay their own court filing fees.
Right. And what does this event mean for you, especially?
For Kituo cha Sheria, this is a very, very critical event for our work because we are commemorating victims of post-election violence, victims of the Wagala massacre, all victims of sexual and gender-based violence. And these are people that we work for every single day. And so what exactly we are doing today is to celebrate them. This day, the International Day of the Right to the Truth, is actually meant for these victims. And as Kituo, we are only an avenue that assists these victims, and all we are celebrating is to say that their right to dignity has to be observed, as well as they need to be reparated. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Well, that's what we have for you at the KICC. Essentially, this event is trying to provide justice for these survivors. But to what extent, the question remains, is to what extent is the value of their human rights? And they're urging the Kenyan government to push more legislation in order for them to be compensated for the experiences that they've endured, not just in post-election violence, sexual